Hey
Hi,
everybody,
Rebecca.
we're back with Patty Mac.
Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
Good. We are starting a new series. It's going to be called The Laws of Sales. And basically, what we're going to do is take things that you guys encounter daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, that you say that you use in forecast calls when you're talking about your deals. And then we're going to put a Patty Mac-ism on the back end of that and talk about how you can see the signs and what to do about them. So the first one, I'm not going to steal his thunder and say his saying, but we're going to talk about when they tell you they're busy. They're just busy. Or somebody says, what's the status with this deal? And you just say, oh, they've just been busy. So there's busy, and then there's avoiding telling you no. So Patty Mac's going to break that down and kind of let you know when it's time to just face the facts and know that actually the deal is dead and they're not just busy anymore. Okay.
Thanks, Rebecca. I appreciate it. Yeah. So, like laws of physics, laws of chemistry, like the one that you learned in school, water at 32 degrees freezes. Well, there are laws in sales. And one that you should live by is with the absence of yes times time equals no. All right. Let me repeat that. With the absence of yes times time equals no. So let's think about it. Today's March 24th. The quarter ends a week from today. So if you are on the calendar year, you've got 1 week left to make your Q1 forecast. So let's go back to Monday, January 5th, 2026. Probably your first day in the office with the new year being on Thursday and Friday. So you probably showed up on Monday morning, the 5th, and your manager said, hey, new year, new quota, give me your forecast for the quarter. And you submitted a forecast, okay? And now you got a week left. And hey, if you made your forecast, more power to you, right? Making plan in Q1 is massively important to a great start to the year. But there's some people out there who probably have some deals that haven't closed yet, that were in January and February. Now, I'm not talking about deals that are still, you're actively communicating, right? Deals that maybe are going through the paper process, or deals have extended decision process because the customer needs to get multiple quotes. The reason why those deals are slowing down is probably because we didn't qualify them well, right? We didn't have a champion, didn't have the economic buyer, but you're still communicating, but the customer's not buying in the time frame that you originally thought. I'm talking about crickets. I'm talking about where the customer has gone completely silent and your boss is calling you up going, hey, what's the deal with ABC company? Have you heard anything? And you don't want to tell them, well, I haven't heard from them in weeks. And your boss is calling up and saying, well, hey, what will it take to get that deal in? What happens if we give them a 20% discount? I'm like, that sometimes works. I mean, let me give you an example. We were at my country club this past weekend, and my wife's a big golfer, right? And yeah, actually, she had a hole in one. It was pretty freaking amazing. But like, she goes into the pro shop, and things that are on the sale rack, she's like, she never would have bought it when it was in the shelf in the pro shop, but now it's on the sale rack, and it's like, holy cow, this is great. And she buys it, right? Well, you can discount it, and you can call the customer up, and that works, but probably doesn't work all the time. So here's my suggestion to you. Don't call them up and tell them how hard you worked for them. Call them up, and it's a two-pronged approach. I would send an email, and I would call them at the same time. And the email would take one of two approaches. I would look back at all my notes from the first discovery call, and I'd remind them of the obstacles they were facing and the implications of those obstacles, the aggravation that they were having with their current tools or their current process, and how is it impacting their business, right? How is it affecting their ability to do their jobs? So that'd be one approach. The second approach is, hopefully, if you found out what value your solution gave, remind them of that value, and remind them of the compounding effect of not implementing your solution in a timely manner, right? So if you were saving them a lot of money or making them a lot of money, think about the longer I take to implement, the less return I'm getting. And you want to remind them of that. And you want to talk about what they were getting out of your solution, not what you were getting. Right? I see so many times sales rep calls the customer and says, I worked so hard to do this for you. Customer doesn't care how hard you work. Right? They're only buying things for themselves. So remind them, like there was a CRO that I met a couple of years ago, really good dude. He had a famous saying, make the customer stand where their feet are, right? So a great thing to do is to call the customer up and make them stand where their feet are. You may find one of a couple of things happen. They haven't called you because they're negotiating terms with the competition. Second, as maybe there's a competing priority, maybe something bigger has taken up their time, and then they'll get back to you. But they're not going to respond because you worked hard. They're going to respond because you remind them of the great value you could bring them, or you remind them of the great pain or discomfort that they were currently in. But either way, you want clarity on the deal, because what I see is most salespeople look at their deals like they look at their children. They're all good looking. But the fact of the matter is there are some ugly babies out there. So make the phone call, remind the customer of why you engaged with them in the beginning, and ask, right? How can you support them? What is the best time to follow up? What is the best time to engage? Treat selling as a verb. Serve your customer. Happy selling out there, folks.
Love that. Thanks, Patty Mac.